Hello, everyone. I'm Giulio Coraggio, and this is the podcast Diritto al Digitale. Today, I'm delighted to have as our special guest Anna Pouliou, Chief Privacy Officer at Mars. Anna, welcome, and thank you very much for being our special guest.
Thank you very much, Giulio. Thank you very much for this very warm welcome and for hosting me.
So, Anna, I know that you speak a perfect Italian. We were discussing before in Italian, and honestly, I couldn't even feel your foreign accent, but we will speak today in English. You speak so many languages because you had so many amazing roles. Can you just give us a bite of your career, of the different roles, so how you tackle different roles and how they were different also in the way you had to tackle them, and also always within the privacy world that in the last 20 years has been evolving so much.
Yes, of course. So I started my a little bit over 25-year career in banking litigation initially and spent many years in the financial sector, ultimately moving on to senior roles in the wider compliance field first. So it was the National Bank of Greece, then the Bank of New York Mellon, and then Euroclear Bank, which was actually a spin-off of JP Morgan, in the legal division. And then at First Data, now Fiserv, which is a major payment and electronic payments actually player, as the international compliance lawyer. Now, naturally, data protection started being a sector of its own within compliance, but very dynamic and very rapidly evolving. Perhaps a determining factor was that I had a truly international profile with studies and a career in multiple countries and knowledge of the compliance universe in a highly regulated sector, the banking sector, plus I spoke multiple languages. So that made me in a way a desired profile for many large organizations with a global presence, even beyond the financial world for privacy roles. So then after my role in the wider compliance, including privacy at First Data, there came privacy leading roles at General Electric, the largest conglomerate at that point in time, and Chanel as well followed. And many more corporations in the meantime had made me offers actually in the past years. The financial sector was highly regulated and compliance obligations are de facto taken very seriously. So outside this world, it's different and one has to check the compliance and accountability culture. So attitudes can vary significantly. And if I were to give an advice to younger lawyers is to do a background check via network, especially on the caliber and the strength of the general counsel and the chief compliance officer of an organization, that are the ones that set the tone on adherence to the laws. Now, after that point, I joined Deloitte. So this time it was in the services part of privacy, as you know so well yourself, and no longer in-house. It is a nice experience to be a partner there because you get to work for multiple players in the private and public sector to see different approaches, governance structures, tools, etc., and also get exposed to cybersecurity work. Then Mars came with a proposal I could not refuse to join an amazing company, and it has been a blast so far. Apart from a wonderful team and ambience, there is respect for privacy that goes very deep in the roots of the company.
Sure. And you touched a very interesting point. Privacy 20 years ago, but I would say even 10 years ago, wasn't a standalone role. It was part of compliance. So do you think that now there is a higher level of awareness of how much privacy matters for a business, and that's why most of the businesses or most of the large businesses have a dedicated role?
Absolutely. I think it became a point not only because of legislation like the GDPR, but also because of the pandemic in itself and what it forced us to do in many ways.
Yeah, and now, yeah, you went through different industries, but now, let's say between brackets, you are in a traditional industry. Can you just nail down what are the types of privacy issues that you need to face in a global business? Because your role is global, and I guess you need to deal with so many different legislations that sometimes are even inconsistent. So the answer for a country doesn't fit the other country, and so on.
Ask me that question in a few months for my current company, as it has been only 4 months for me, and obviously I can't reveal much at this stage objectively. I just don't think that any industry is traditional nowadays, or that any industry can stay away from the key elements of the new digital era. Remember, for example, my role at GE in the corporate part overseeing 8 lines of business. Well, very traditionally as well, albeit varied. And then one of them was actually the GE Digital, which started developing with the future in mind. Now, all companies nowadays, even the traditional manufacturing, definitely the traditional manufacturing, are looking at digitalization. They're looking at the factory of the future. They're looking at AI at large and tapping into technology to improve efficiency and quality. And these are like very global issues, obviously. Even if we take a classical production unit, there is value in augmented reality, for example. There's data. It's not always personal, but lots of data that can be
Yeah.
utilized to develop algorithms and overall enable machine learning that has its own issues. But besides all the above, a very simple example, the pandemic showed us that technology is key. So we all very abruptly move on to Zooms and Teams, like we do right now, podcasts, remote working. So vulnerabilities soon started showing up. And that's very much a global issue too. So it also showed the value of privacy laws and a very good understanding of privacy laws, of what the GDPR tried to achieve and how important it is having done your privacy homework well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now let's look at the future. During these days, we heard a lot about the cybersecurity threats that normally come during the holiday period, and I think the hottest topic of the last couple of months is artificial intelligence, the generative artificial intelligence. From the perspective of a global privacy officer, what do you think the main challenges of privacy compliance are for the coming months? I don't speak about years because the digital transformation is so fast that having a long-term view is quite hard.
Indeed. And as I have mentioned already, the digital era and how the pandemic almost violently made us move on to clouds and digital spaces outside the traditional physical office in our day-to-day lives, we started realizing the value of privacy. We saw during the pandemic hospitals being victims of cyber attacks. They were not only paralyzed in their functionalities, but also in the way medical records can be compromised. We saw COVID passes, we saw vaccination passes with data that in the past only our doctor would know about. Now onto clouds and devices utilized widely. And one naturally started questioning how secure all this sensitive information is. What if it gets compromised? Idem with our work meetings over a video conference facility. For those of us with global roles in large organizations, this was not new, but in some work environments, it is a novelty. And now sensitive conversations should be secure everywhere. So cybersecurity is by now key, and the privacy experts should have a very good understanding of it, especially as cyber criminals are getting very sophisticated. So we need to be a step ahead in many ways. Now, regarding artificial intelligence, which is the new thing, things are moving even more quickly, and so does artificial intelligence legislation around the world. We've seen several initiatives by now. Some people even say we reached singularity with AI being more powerful than human intelligence,
Yeah.
based on vast amounts of existing data the AI brain that has actually all this data and has definitely more experiences to draw from, may be beating the capacity of the human mind in some areas. Privacy lawyers were naturally involved as they are tech savvy, but also they are familiar with digital ethics and AI ethics. In many companies, artificial intelligence governance is entrusted to the chief privacy officer and to privacy professionals at large. Already in the GDPR, as you know, there were clauses for automated decision-making and profiling, and some limitations were set. So we'll see more of that debate coming up in the next years, and I just find that fascinating.
Absolutely. I mean, this short conversation was great, Anna. I thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next future, because I'm sure there will be lots to discuss about. Privacy is changing the world. Data are changing the world, and there will be lots to cover. Thank you
I
for
will
your
be
time.
glad, and next time I promise we will do it in Italian.
Absolutely. Thank
Grazie.
you.